Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeliji-Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. SOUQ Enlightenment.
Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodu Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers, knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodu Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the eco-greeting tradition. The Three Wise Men, Arometa, SOUQ Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemere Glover. Naomi,
Well done, and shout out to SOUQ News.
shout out to SOUQ News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching SOUQ News. Shout out to SOUQ News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching SOUQ News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you, no, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to SOUQ News for your news requirements.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929, He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, SOUQ Enlightenment.
Yes, hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. This is still your program, our program, where we look at projects, be it local, be it national, be it project across continents. We look at development agencies, we look at policies, we look at business, and we see how does it affect the people, how our business is faring, how our country is doing well, how are their policies making sure that the business of that particular country or the people or the investors are smiling to the bank. And the banks themselves, how are they faring? Are they being nice? Loans from international agencies, donor agencies, NGOs, how are they faring? We put a stethoscope and check the polls and see if the businesses or the projects we call financed, completed, were they really completed? And can we replicate it? To that light, we will be going today. And my name is John Rogers Chuks. I'm not alone. I'm still smiling. My co-presenter is here. Grace, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Chuks, and thanks for having me here again today. Of course, we're here, we'll be doing this together. Welcome to SOUQ Pulse. My name is Grace Komolafe. On this show, we take deep dive into issues that are not just financial related, but issues that influence policies, developmental issues, not just in Nigeria, but of course across the globe. Today is not going to be anything different, and I'm sure that at the end of today's program, you would be able to go home with something very key. So we'll be looking at a very key developmental aspect in Nigeria today, and I leave that to Chuks to take it up.
Thank you very much. You said something like thanks for having me. Like
yes, now because you might just decide to not have me here. You did that a couple of days ago. Remember?
Okay. This particular issue we will sort it out. Don't worry. We won't tell you our private issues on air. But okay. Today we are looking at development success stories. We're looking at those particular projects that we can look around us, be it in Africa or outside, and say this particular project is a success. And for that, we are bringing this home. We are looking at the Lekki Deep Seaport. It started, it's completed, and as we speak, it's functioning. And that is one particular success. So today on this show, we'll look at the port, then we'll ask one very big question. Can we replicate this particular success around Nigeria and also Africa? To talk on this particular issue today, to discuss this, and throw more light into it is no other but our very own in-house analyst, a coach of coaches, our own Dr. Idahosa Osamahanze. Sir, you're welcome.
A pleasure to be sandwiched by Chuks and Grace this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
My honor to be here.
We had to go an extra mile to make sure Doc is on the show today. And I promise you, at the end of today, we look forward and say that this is positive programming. That is all what we are about here on SOUQ News. We don't dwell on the negatives. Yes, they are there, but we look for solutions. We look for how can we get better per day. We talk to ourselves, we talk to individuals, we talk to businesses. Then we talk to governments and say, hey, there are better ways of doing things. So today, sir, we are looking at the Lekki Deep Seaport. Let's kind of look at what's on the ground. This particular project was conceived long time ago, 2003 to be precise. And it was financed by a consortium, both Chinese private banks and the government of Lagos State. To the Chinese part of it contributed 75% to get this done. And the construction was also from that particular side. And through the COVID era, a lot of things tried stalling. But both the government, the Lagos State government, and those that dropped their money down because the money was important, made sure this project did not fail, unlike what we used to have before. And a kind of question mark to it, but it's all about business, if you agree on something. It's more of a build, operate, own, and transfer. And that's for 45 years. But the counting started in 2003. When I saw that counting, I really want to breathe first, and I now started breathing well later. Now, if we started for 2003, it's going to end 2056, which means they've gone a long way. They've gone a long way. Now, this particular project has not just been delivered. We are seeing it. We are seeing the effect, not just for those in Lagos State, those within those communities. Sir, will you say, let's start, will you say this project is a successful one? Looking at the amount that was put into it, cash-wise, asset-wise, $1.5 billion.
Well, I think the Lekki Deep Seaport is one story of the success of PPP again in Nigeria, and also championed by the now president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while he was governor of Lagos State. For me, it was a product of vision. And when you look at the time, that project was conceptualized by that regime. You remember that Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in a hurry to see Lagos develop. And one of the steps he took at that time was to see how to really democratize development in Lagos State, and he created some council area, which brought him at loggerhead with the then president of the Federation, Chief Matthew Kikiolu Obasanjo. And that, of course, stalled our resource from coming into Lagos for the rest of the tenure of Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2007.
And Lagos did not fail.
Lagos did not fail. And
thanks to internally generated revenue.
Yeah, but you see, this is the point I'm trying to make. That's why I'm painting this picture of something that looks very gloomy, something that looked impossible. Because at that time, with no resource coming to the local government in Lagos State, the Lagos State government was still able to sustain the local council as they were, and they created LCDAs, funding it from Lagos State, and still was embarking on some huge development stride like this one we are talking about here. And so concessioning became something that was inevitable at that point, that Lagos needed a partner who was willing to commit resources into this. And of course, you see a man who always will be ready and willing to delay gratification. When we say 45 years, it looks like forever. But before
when I saw this 45 years, I had to first wait.
Yeah, because you see, this resource is put in here, and you can imagine that this particular deep seaport did not come into operation until late 2023.
April 2023.
That's after 20 years. So you can imagine.
And that is part of the 45 years.
Of the 45 years. You can imagine the number of resources that are come into developing that project. And of course, those who put in the money, 75% from Chinese engineering company and Tolaram is huge. It's huge. And therefore, you must give them ample time to be able to take this thing away. So this is, for me, an example of delayed gratification by a man who is visionary. He's not eating today, but he's also thinking about tomorrow. Now, while he was contemplating all these things, probably, yes, he had an idea, maybe become president of Nigeria, but not again the governor of Lagos State. So he was thinking ahead, even for his predecessors, to see this project come on ground. No little wonder that just recently, at the last council meeting, the government also approved the construction of road toward that zone, so that, of course, the infrastructure that is required for that thing to function at its best are all put in place.
Okay, so you have mentioned that it's functioning, but for me, I really want to know what is the level of its functionality. And again, talking about internally generated revenue from this very port, how can we measure it from when they started till date?
For the very first time across Africa, just last week, a vessel carrying over 4,000 containers landed in this seaport. You can imagine what that is. And this is the bride of all investors and business people around here. And don't also forget that it's because of this infrastructure that Dangote also was cornered to set up the investment in that area. That is the new Lagos. And it is something that you cannot quantify what it's going to bring in terms of macroeconomic rewards. It's assumed that deep seaport alone will accommodate about 200,000 employees in that area alone. Now you can imagine.
We see that happening now.
Of course, it's happening.
We say that is happening.
We're looking at direct
employment. Yes, direct employment. People are there. So you see, ships are betting, and as long as the ships are betting, and all the infrastructure are here, there are a lot of ships that couldn't come to Nigeria before because of the shallow water in Apapa and Tinker. Now you have a better opportunity where ship can harbor.
So I wanted to speak to that. I wanted you to speak to that. Talking about Apapa, we also have Tinkan Island. So there is a container terminal in this port, and till date, we still see the volume of containers that goes to Apapa and Tinkan, the level of obstruction when it comes to traffic and all of that. Is it not better if they are able to, work hand in hand and reduce traffic from that end?
Don't forget that the Nigerian Port Authority is also a stakeholder in this project. It's not just Lagos State alone. There's Chinese on one part, there's Lagos State government on one part, and then the government of Nigeria, represented by Nigeria Port Authority.
And Tolaram on one part.
Yeah, of course, Tolaram and Chinese, and they are all same in the same web. So you see, this is the whole idea. Now, the Apapa terminal can only take ships that are not too big. Real big ship can bet in Apapa. So, of course, that will provide the opportunity for them to bet in the deep seaport. And that is what we are seeing right now. That ships are beginning to bet in there, and the containers are also coming in that. Definitely, it won't decongest Apapa.
Okay. Now, we are still looking at this particular project. And from our point of view, we are seeing it as a successful project. Now, before we get to the other side of the program, where we are looking at where and how can we replicate this, let's still look at this project. Now, we saw, just like you said, a few days back, a ship that can do well over the 4,000 containers came in. It's coming in, it's evidence that this is really a transshipment hub. not just for Nigeria. So every other African country can still bring in their small ships. The big ones come here and now give it to them. And wherever the journey is, they continue. So now, this is positioning Lekki, Lagos, Nigeria as not just a shipping port, but a hub for the entire West Africa. We had issues where some countries, Niger, for example, had to start going to our neighbors because of this set of issues. Now that has been sorted. Can we say that looking at production, ships are coming in loaded, they are coming in laden. Can we now start looking at how can they also leave not empty, even if you can't fill it up, not empty?
Yeah, in my village, there's this parable that they usually say that the decision to turn a slave to a son is not something you discuss in one day. You have to take time to review it before this can happen. See, this is a real challenge that we face as a country. And it's not just even with the Lekki Deep Seaport. You see ships coming in with containers and then they are leaving with empty containers back to where they came from because there is not so much of export happening around us. And again, nobody had to do that for us. It has to be done by people who will definitely have to embrace productivity and see what we can ship out so that the ships that are coming are not just one way and they can be two way, because that will also even reduce the cost of freight. Because if you have potential to take product back, which you are going to value, so that will be two way. So if you are going back empty, is as same as you are burning fuel, diesel to go and to come, and then of course it's charge of the container that you brought. So I think that we should be able to take advantage of all this, and hoping that also that with the award of the contract to do the road to Lekki that can connect it to both Ijebu and then inward Lagos here, if that road, and the rail, of course, if those infrastructures are put in place, then we can actually take products from the far north, the middle belt, and the south-south, and then, of course, they can be shipped from here, and that would be an advantage, added advantage to what the Deep Seaport is already doing.
What level of advantage does the private business individuals have in this?
Well, every businessman, if you want to sell product abroad, and of course you have something to help you carry it, it's already an advantage. So doors are open.
Talking about the seaport itself, its environment, the seaport itself, are there platforms for private individuals, private businesses to also find their way?
Oh, there are a lot of people will be working in there. You see people who are into clearing and forwarding, they will all be working in that environment. Those who are into logistics, they will have business to do in that environment. So a whole lot of people will benefit definitely from the operation of the Deep Seaport, apart from individuals that are going to get job to do there. So private businesses that are related to port and harbor, we of course have their benefit from this particular Deep Seaport. So to that extent, we'll say, oh, there's a high advantage. But we're talking the national reward, really, in this sense that if you have a lot of product that you can ship abroad, even if they are just primary agricultural products, that these containers that are coming, just imagine a ship that is carrying over 4,000 containers at the same time and is leaving with about 4,000 containers back again to Europe or to Asia or wherever it's coming from. Now, that would mean a whole lot of foreign exchange earner for us as a country. Now, these issues we are talking about, foreign exchange, naira value and the rest of it, of course, will also be taken care of. So that's where the productivity of the average Nigerian man is also very, very critical. I have always said, and I also believe, that for us to be able to reach that level of productivity, we would need very good quality education.
Okay.
That's great. In fact, I like the point you just made, because I was about to ask you questions around having the Chinese construction companies do, I'll say, probably 100% or 90% of the job, rather than having, it's in Nigeria, rather than having Nigerians come in to do these jobs. You see them probably being allocated to do some other little aspect of the job.
But so I think that was at the construction phase. The construction is gone now. They came in to do construction.
So that could be other projects.
Yeah, but,
and we are
running the port, definitely they will have their personnel because of their investment that is in there. To see how to recoup whatever thing that is invested in that project. So their personnel must be there, but they're not going to be dominant in that number. But the people who are going to operate the port, who are going to run the facilities, are Nigerians, and they will be properly Nigerians.
Okay. When you said the line of bringing in 4,000 containers, the lady in field, and leaving with 4,000 containers in field, I started smiling because I like positivities. Now let's take this at another angle. Trying to buttress what Grace was trying to say. In that same angle, we have the Lekki Free Trade Zone.
Yes, yes.
So our businesses are covered. If you have a business and you think you can thrive and you want to go learn, go to the Free Trade Zone. Now, sir, we are looking at seafarers. Now we have a facility. We are going to have a whole lot of them. Looking at countries that produce a lot of seafarers, the first you now start looking at Russia. You look at the Philippines. You look at India. You look at Indonesia. I think we can also now start looking at, okay, how can we get our people into this profession? Because that is another very good means of foreign earning. Talk about this.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Although the institute is already set up at the free trade zone area, and we're also having to get our people really to take interest in this particular type of trade. This trade is even more with people who are living within the water environment. For example, in Nigeria here, the Jaws, people who can actually immediately take advantage of this opportunity. But government also would need to do a lot of enlightenment campaigns to get people to really understand that there's an opportunity in this area. And then, of course, we see how to drive it. Not just with the institute alone, but we're also saying that even basic university in this environment, like University of Lagos, Lagos State University, start to offer courses in this area because it will create a manpower that will be needed to ensure value for money in the free trade zone.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
yeah. Okay.
Actually, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Now, looking at, I'm still coming back to the fairer issue. Now, some of these countries add this line of profession in their annual reports on their GDP. Countries like Indonesia, they will tell you, okay, good, our seafarers brought in this. So this is very intentional. How can we intentionally, as in, tell, okay, let's say in the next 5 years, in the next 6 years, any ship that is batting in Lekki Deep Seaport or batting in Apapa or batting anywhere, we want to see a number of Nigerians on board because that is what is done outside. How can we achieve that?
Yeah, I like Philip Kotter's work on national competitiveness, where he opined a thesis on how nations should position themselves to compete globally. Because just as individual businesses are competing, nations are also competing. And so people are finding areas where they can have a competitive edge over another. So what you're doing is that you are leveraging on the things that are, very unique to you and see how to convert this into foreign currency earner. This is what people are doing. And this is why you see nations specializes in certain areas. So when you call some certain item, there are nations who you can quickly recall. Or say you want to talk about wine, you know where to call. If you want to talk about beer, you know where to call. If you want to talk about rice, you know where to call. If you want to talk about clothing, you know where to call. So nations strategically position themselves to earn. And that's why I keep saying, as a nation, Nigeria, we cannot be dissipating energy in too many areas. This is the biggest problem we have. We want to be expert in everything. And at the end of the day, we become masters of none. We must choose the play area, the field where we want to play as a nation, deliberately. And this is what we're going to look at it. Look at it, there are a whole lot of body of waters around us. From the Atlantic Ocean to River Niger, River Benue. We have a body of water that if we harness very well, can really bring us value. And so we don't necessarily need to say, oh, somebody is already doing well in AI. All we just need to do is harvest the product of AI to develop yourself. We cannot say, oh, we want to create a competitive advantage in that area because we're not going to get a market for it. So this is where we need to sit down, look at our environment, scan it very well, and strategically position yourself. And now positioning yourself means that you also will need to develop manpower around that industry. People who are going to do it excellently well, better than anywhere else you can find it. And so once you are able to put this on the ground, then you are on the path of national competitiveness.
I agree with you. And when it comes to manpower, it's a major thing for me. I am always concerned when it comes to having projects and you see non-Nigerians handling those key areas. It's always a concern for me. So I want you to talk about managing revenue. Agreed, this is a collaborative effort to have people invested, companies have invested, state government, federal government have invested into this project. But you know, recently I heard about the presidency asking NNPC to channel all of their revenue or their incomes through, you know, central bank. Is this possible? Is this something that could be applicable for this project?
No, I think if you have read the circular from the Ministry of Finance, which actually says that agencies of government, especially those who are funded 100%, should ensure that their revenue gets into government 100%. And those that are partly funded by government also ensure that 50% of their revenue gets into CBN straight. And I think NNPC is within that threshold of agencies that the federal government is financing. But this arrangement, of course, the Chinese engineering company and Tolaram are holding majority of the stake in this project, 75%, so they have a controlling share. We cannot legislate them out. The only way to do that is that we have to pay them off.
Is it doable?
Well, the government can decide to say, oh, they have so much money and say, okay, we want to buy this project off you. Now, if you take, for example, the Lekki toll gate, which is also part and parcel of this PPP arrangement within Lagos, when after the October 20th NSAS protest, the inability of the partners to take revenue from that place, Lagos state government had to buy off the project. So which cost Lagos so much money to buy off that project, because if you have a partnership with somebody and you're not able to take your money, then of course, this is where we talk about the enabling environment, a beautiful ecosystem where business can prosper. And you are not having no state actors having much more power than government. So these are the real issue. So, but if government decide to say, okay, we want to take over this project, then of course they can decide to value and evaluate their project. And if you have enough money, you can pay. Otherwise, you will go to an arbitrator, which may not be in your country, to determine the fate of the ownership of that particular project.
Okay, so on this beautiful day, we get to hear that same phrase again, non-state actors. But on this issue of non-state actors, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. SOUQ PULSE is still here. Stay there.
My name is Olatunji Shoti-Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, UNILAG. Keep watching SOUQ News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching SOUQ News. If you're not watching SOUQ News, I pity you. But keep watching SOUQ News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timida Kolo and you're watching SOUQ News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at SOUQ News. Guys, keep watching SOUQ News for everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news. SOUQ News is your station.
Welcome back to SOUQ PULSE. We're still here and we're discussing successful projects. We're taking a look at the Lekki Deep Seaport. We're seeing the businesses being done around and the success they've achieved. And now we're going to the second part of it, replicating this particular project, be it in other parts of Nigeria or some other countries or states in Africa. Now with the Deep Seaport, we are going to see development and ability for other businesses to come in and build and repair ships. We're going to see development and businesses thriving. We are now cutting time in exporting locally made goods. For those that complain about inspection taking longer time to ship the goods, that time is going to be cut. Now let's go to the other side. This is more like a very short question. Can this project be replicated somewhere else in Nigeria or somewhere in Africa?
It's possible. It can be replicated as long as the natural infrastructure is in place. It's replicable. But you see, the big challenge is the fact that for the replication to happen, some basic things need to be in place. The infrastructure has to be in place. You have to see a government who is also willing and determined, who will be able to negotiate on behalf of the partner with local landowners. The 1976 Land Use Act says state government hold land in trust for its citizens. So there's a part to play. Now, when you look at the history of this Lekki Deep Seaport and the entire free trade zone in Lekki here, you see the wisdom that was deployed by Fashola in dealing with the local landowner.
Okay.
To ensure
that took a while.
A while. So it was a whole lot of negotiation. And it was managed in such a way that these people could freely and willingly say, okay, we want this development coming to our place. How many people or governments or political head we have such kind of wisdom to do that negotiation is something, again, that has to be contemplated, especially in the environment where we find ourselves. And this is also to see that, of course, you see, everything seems to be working together, in hand in hand. Don't forget, while all this contemplation were going on, that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu regime, as the governor of Lagos State, flagged off the Lagos security project. First and foremost, to be able to create that ecosystem where the Hunchins and the people who are likely to create trouble, all the kidnappers, armed robbers that were terrorizing Lagos, had to be put in check. And that fund, that security fund, is still in operation today. So this is huge in terms of the ecosystem where investment can work.
Okay, just hold on to this thought. Now, I had to write out some specific places based on what you talked about, the ecosystem, having places where this project can be replicated. Now, let's have this thought in our head. Calabar, Warri, Port Harcourt, Burutu, One. All these places have one form of seaport or the other, working in one form or the other. Can these places, these localities, these states, both the people and the government, do you see them being able to replicate this project?
No, but you see, the possibility will only reflect on what you currently have on ground. The first question to ask is, why is the Warri port not working? Why is the Port Harcourt port not working? There is port in Port Harcourt, there is port in Warri. So it's not working because a lot of ship owners do not want to risk their vessel coming into this area because of the threat. That's why I made mention of this ecosystem, which of course the Bola Ahmed Tinubu contemplated in setting up what he called the Lagos Security Trust Fund, where of course companies were asked to contribute some money and put in a special team and see how to clean up Lagos and ensure that Lagos is safe. You can't take that away from Lagos today. That Lagos will remain one of the safest states in Nigeria. And this is because somebody had a vision to say, if business must thrive, if foreigner must come, we must create an atmosphere where they will not be afraid of themselves. The people who come from Burutu, they are afraid to go back to their village to go and do Christmas. This is a problem. So how do you guide foreigners to come into this kind of an environment to want to put money down to do investment? So that's why I'm talking about the power of non-state actors in most of the Nigerian states across the federation.
And you don't see this as something government should take charge of and ensure that, other states are also functioning very well, because Lagos has become the major, state for almost all of these activities. You see, when it comes to oil, you see trucks coming from far away, states, from the north to Lagos, and of course that leads to traffic and all of this put together. When you have them in each of those states functioning, I mean, is this not going to do good? And what is the government, federal government I mean to say, doing about this?
Well, I think another thing that also had worked for Lagos since this democratic dispensation from 1999, the Federal Republic, is the fact that you also have continuity that has been in place and seamless transition from one particular regime to another, even though they are one same political party. And you cannot see that replicated anywhere across Nigeria, and seems only to work in Lagos. Now, when you go to places like Delta State, you see the Binkari. If you go to Edo, you see all those things. Now, if you go to Kogi, you see all the political warfare that are taking place. Same for Benue. So you see, politics, largely again, within the Lagos space, had been done with some level of civility. That transition, not like warfare here, even intra-party. Now, you can't find that elsewhere. So these are, for me, the real issues that will want to encourage or incentivize a would-be investor to want to put money in your space.
Okay, putting money in your space is very important. Now, let's also look at the owners of the space, because most times we keep looking at, okay, foreign direct investment, getting Asia in, getting Europe in, getting a bank outside in. If you want to sell something to me, I think the first I'll look at is you. What you're selling to me, is it something you will buy? Now, for the people within this place, let's leave Lagos out of it. Lagos already has the Lekki Deep Seaport. This is the example we're trying to replicate. How can we speak to them directly to come up with ideas for this kind of project? It might not be a deep seaport. We are discussing deep seaport today, but it might not be a deep seaport. How can we tax them, be it someone in Kenya, someone in Rwanda, someone in any other country, as a group, as a community-based group, to come up with a project that is viable before we can say, okay, funds can now come into it?
Yeah, that is the point I'm making.
Coming to think about this Lagos Deep Seaport, China didn't think it up. It was thought up here.
Yeah, Lagos, that's what I'm saying to you. This is what I'm talking about. When you have leadership in place, like John C. Maxwell said, everything rises and falls on a leader. So once you have the right leadership in place, the possibility of having this replicated, for me, is high. Because nature has already provided the basic infrastructure that is needed, which is water. That's what is needed. So what is required now is the will, or the political will, of the various state actors to say, oh, we want to do something that is meaningful. That is the point which, of course, I'm hammering. It is not the fact that, yes, Lagos has done it. If you remember the story of the Dangote refinery, when in 2007, after Dangote has purchased Warri and the Port Harcourt refinery, and then, of course, the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua had to buy them back from them, seeing them as very critical asset. Then, of course, Dangote started to nurse the ambition to build his own refinery. Warri was not an option. Port Harcourt was not an option. He contemplated going to Ondo State because there was a facility there. But because of the nature of politics in Ondo, they couldn't site it there. And Lagos had to invite him. He didn't need to approach Lagos. Lagos approached him. So this is where you see leadership. In many places, what you find is the fact that the definition of what is in it for me
comes first
by political actor overrides the importance or the relevance of a project to the people. Wrong sighting, where it will not work, because some people have underlying motives. Maybe they want to use it for political campaign to say, oh, I brought it to my people, but therefore I can secure votes. So, but you look at it, basically what you see here is economic consideration, not political. And this is what we need to replicate first and foremost everywhere. And that's why you still look at it, and we can say that anywhere. And every state does know that the center of excellence is actually Lagos, as far as Nigeria is concerned. Because you are not having progressive people in most of the states who will be really to set aside politics and put economy on the forefront.
Let's go beyond Lagos, because our audience is well beyond Lagos. Let's look at Africa. Let's also look beyond Africa. No,
but the story is the same. From Niger to Mali to Burkina Faso to Cameroon to Benin Republic to Angola to Kenya, the story is the same. The nature of politics in Africa is what is actually underdeveloping us. And that is what we're saying. Where politics is ethnicized, where politics is, of course, made to be a religious affair, this is the problem in most of the African states. And this is why development is not coming. Because once you have a political leader who thinks politics first before economy, you cannot see positive advancement.
Okay, if we let you ride on this line, we will completely leave the Lekki Deep Seaport, and maybe we'll lose track on being able to replicate it in Calabar. What do you think?
Yeah, but that was I was asking.
I agree with you. If we leave it off to Doctor, we'll just keep having this conversation, and we might probably drift away from Lekki Deep Sea. But this is what I want to say. Talking about the style of politics, having people coming in.
Are you?
Hold on. I'll bring you back. Okay. Just we can. So, having people probably going for one intention or the other. I want to link it to neglect. Yes, this is the reason why it was put up, why it was set up, whatever project now. I'm just giving an example. And okay, we are done with it and we'll just let it be. So whoever is coming might decide to take it up and continue to polish it or decide to open a new one. Now we have the deep sea actively working. I will still go back to Apapa and the Tinkan Island. The volume of consignments that goes in there and the mode of operation. I want to believe that Lekki Deep Sea is going to be different because it's new. When you have a new baby or you have a new wife, you give all of those attention and all of that. I wanted to speak to probably the right individuals that are supposed to look at these areas and ensure they don't neglect whatever they have at hand just because you're having something new.
Yeah, but this is what it is. The seaport is completely automated. And that's different from what you are having here, where technology is driving everything that's going to happen. And that is synonymous with Lagos. We cannot say this enough. Because look at every part of Lagos in terms of revenue collection. That's how you saw that the revenue from 600 million came to what we are having today, over 55 billion every month coming into the coffers of Lagos State, because this is not digitized. They use technology to drive the process. Nobody is looking at individuals. So this is the issue. that we are speaking to here. Why am I emphasizing politics? Because, you see, we have made politics our superstructure in Africa as against the structure which is supposed to be built on the superstructure which is economy. And nobody is thinking economy. What people are thinking about is politics first. Now, we're looking for cheap popularity. Let me give you one very particular instance. Now, when, of course, the Ajakuta Steel Rolling Mill project was being cited, the biggest resource you need for that resources should come from Enugu State, which is coal. And now, if that project was cited in Enugu State, it would have been a huge success. But politics put it in Ajakuta. And since 1957, up to today, that project has not seen the light of the day. So these are the issues that you have to look at. And that's why I'm speaking to, you see, political will on the part of national leaders to take decision, not just a decision that favors them, but a decision that will favor generations that are yet to be born. I give you one small example. In 2011, I was in a certain state in Nigeria here.
You don't want to mention the name?
I don't want to mention name.
Oh, can you whisper to me? I'll mention it.
I will whisper to you.
Okay.
And we were in that state, and we were going to replicate the Twin City project from a state in the United States of America. And I had the privilege of seeing the people who were very critical to having this project delivered. The governor was not on seat, and then they said his son was a de facto ruler who was in the state. And we sat and said, I said, brother, see, there's no money in the state. There's only one ministry that has money, and that's the Ministry of Local Government Affairs, that will try to go and see the Commissioner of Local Government Affairs, whether they will appreciate it. Now, this was free money coming from the U.S. to develop certain local governments in that state and make it a twin mayor to the one in the U.S. And we explained everything to him. The Commissioner of Local Government Affairs said to me, he said, oh, beautiful idea, this is wonderful. He said, what is important to us now is that we have to come back to enjoy the reward of the things we are talking about. So the most important thing for us now is how to win the next election. So
that's serious.
But yes, and this is in this country. We spent 2 weeks in that state.
So if it doesn't come back,
to see how we can get this project running.
Oh no!
Because we see some similarity between this state and the other states in the U.S. I said, let's drive this process. But it died in the womb because somebody felt that winning election was much more important than
that project,
an economic project in a state. Now, you imagine if, for example, the man who conceived this idea of the Lekki Deep Seaport was thinking about himself, probably that project would not have been realized. Now, you can imagine that Governor Sanwo-Olu, who was just a chief of staff, I guess, at that time,
now happened to be
the one who commissioned this project. So these are. And the man who conceived this idea was not even in the picture in terms of commissioning, because another head of state had to commission it with the governor who takes the glory. So this is the issue they talk about, that if people do not care who takes the praise or glory, anything can be done. Okay. This is the point I'm making here.
Okay. We are still looking at successful projects in Africa and beyond. And for today, we are looking at the Lekki Deep Seaport. And we're now asking the second part of the question, how can we replicate this? Now, what I get to see for Lekki Deep Seaport is ownership. When you take something as my own, you'll be responsible for it. You will see it to the end and make sure it's a success. Now we are having that problem of ownership outside Lagos. In this specific place I mentioned, where we had this blessing of water bodies, and in other African countries, is it possible for us to now start looking ourselves in the face and tell ourselves, sit up?
I think so. And I think, for me, we cannot say that enough. Africa need to wake up. And those who have the privilege of playing in our politics also must wake up. And they must understand that we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder that is about to explode. And that is giving the size and the population of the African country. We're talking about a population of over 1.3 billion people, which is almost the population, the size of population of India. And that is about 1/4 of the population of the world. Now, what you are looking at is that you are having this population, not just population, but very young population, with an average age of about 19 and 20 years. And these are people that are being deprived. These are people who are finding the difficulty getting jobs. These are people who are bearing the brunt of the wastefulness of the yesteryears. They don't have access to good quality education. They don't have access to homes. They don't have access to any means of livelihood. And like they say, if people have nothing to live for, they can die for anything. And I keep saying this to those who are our age and above, that we must be very, very careful how we manage this burgeoning population of young people. Because if they say tomorrow that they are not going to take it anymore, that enough is enough, many of us will not have a place to pass. And that will be very dangerous for African state. I think leaders today must take this to heart, that we have the responsibility to build a society and be also sustainably minded, that we have lived our good life. Some of those who are rulers today have the privilege of free education. They can talk about how they were in UR with a ticket, go and take full chicken, half chicken to live. And now, this generation of people have nothing to live on. And all we think about is that we can pack money and send our children abroad. But we must realize that once that D-Day happens, if their children happen to be in this country, they will not have anywhere to run to. Even themselves that are stealing the money to send to their children abroad, they will not be able to take off. So this is what we need to know, that we must become developmental minded as a people and leave lasting legacy, leave a name behind for our children and our children's children.
Okay, so I want to say this, no matter how beautiful and big a project may be, if not properly put in place, if not putting all necessary things together, there could be environmental impact. So looking at the deep sea over there in Lekki, I'd like you to address this. Could there be environmental impact, and if there are plans, there are workable plans to ensure that people in the environment, do not really feel that impact? Because I give an example. The oil producing company in Delta, some of them that wanted to leave, you see these people coming out to say, oh, you've done this over these years in this environment, you've caused pollution, this and that, there are environmental impacts, -1, and you should pay for damages. So we are looking at this now. What do you think?
Yeah, of course, I also understand that those impacts are there, especially where the refining activities are happening, noise pollutions and the rest of all those things are there. But you see, where it's located at the moment, the closeness to the heart of city is also one thing that one cannot also take away. And I am sure that what Lagos has done is that they've also put some check in place to see how to address the impact of this environment. If you look at what has happened in the Niger Delta, you see politics of neglect. That's actually the problem. It's not the fact that, because if those facilities were maintained and what government need to do are done, and there are people who are supposed to be oversighting some certain things and they are doing so, you will see that some of all those things are not happening. But I think there's a whole lot of proactivity here in the state, and those impacts can actually be contained or minimized, if not completely taken away.
Thank you very much. You wanted it to round up, but in your last statements before this, you already did way beyond rounding up. We want to say thank you very much for always being a beautiful guest and an in-house analyst. We thank you for letting us take a bit of your wisdom. Thank you very much. To everyone that has been there, you've seen the show, you can always go back and rewatch. And to every leader out there, every captain of industry, every politician, get to know this. If Lekki Deep Seaport can be a success, you can also think it up, and it's possible. If this success, someone started it, a government saw it through before the money even came. Let us do more of this, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa. If you want to see a country that is developing or making money or economically vibrant, look at the seaport. If the seaport is empty, then sorry, don't bother going to the bank. I want to say thank you very much for being there today. My name is John Rogers Chuks. See you tomorrow.
All right, so I take it from here, So there's a lot of wealth, in the water. So if you don't take advantage of it, you just won't know. I want to say that you drive, good, innovative projects. Don't just sit back and say, oh, if government is not doing it, then I myself am not going to do it. And at the same time, when you are driving projects, try as much as possible to consider, the long-term goal, not immediate benefits. Just like Doctor mentioned